Welcome to another edition of First Minister's Questions Review. The three men in a blog are four this week. We've been joined by Alex Grant of the Constitution Commission, not Convention. I had to cut that out the other week.
Oh, aye.
You notice it didn't make broadcasting.
Indeed.
Norrie Stewart, political blogger, one-time professional politician, Phil Attridge, now a professional ranter, and myself, Stuart Lockhead. And there's no FMQs next week. Today's FMQs it came within a week of an awful lot going on. There was the announcement by the Scottish Government of a kind of programme between a yes vote through to an Independence Day, which hit the headlines. And the budget was passed, the Scottish budget was passed yesterday. The Edinburgh City Council budget is going to be passed today, and over in Brussels the European budget is under discussion. So there's a kind of a background. However, I'd like to start with overall impressions today. We'll go with you, Norrie, first.
I thought Joanne was good today, in terms of what she's been in the past. I caught her on, was it Newsnight she was on, or Scotland Tonight?
Scotland Tonight. Being human.
Well, she was very good. I thought she was excellent, which is not a word I use often about Joanne. And I think maybe whoever her spindle to is should show her that and then show her question time. She operates a lot better without a script, I think. Having said that, she was pretty good today. I was fairly impressed with her, banging on about national health, lots of good news that Simon could hit back with, and waffled on a bit. She does that. She goes on too long. She doesn't have that bullet question to hit him with that people should remember. I can't remember her asking the question.
Frequently she just goes on and has a speech and then some kind of fairly trivial question at the end. So
but very pleased with Alex with her first question when he stood up and went, yes, and sat down.
Yes, you've been saying that in the past.
Excellent, that's what I want to see. Ruthie Babe, hiding to nothing. I mean, what can she hit him with? I mean, the cut's coming from down south. Doesn't matter what she says, he can throw that back at her. But very professional as usual. Wee Willie. 2-year-olds. How many times has he asked that question?
It's his pet project.
2-year-olds, 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 2-year-olds. Apparently, I watched the budget debate yesterday, apparently he actually did the work to show where the money would come from, which is something Simon's been asking the Labour Party to do.
Okay.
But he actually did the work and they still ignored him.
And what about the presiding officer? She was back.
Yeah, and scalping bums as well.
Mr. Stevenson, enough, she said.
It was like your mammy, yeah. It was just like your mammy.
Someone commented that over in the Doyle in Dublin, the speaker, the equivalent of the presiding officer there, has got a bell. Here, I think they should get electrified chairs, and if they go on too long, you can just get them a shock.
Give them a done, actually.
Phil, what did you think today?
Joanne, the delivery I thought was very, very good. But again, it's unfortunate when she goes on about the health service, when its figures tell you that it is improving. And when you look at south of the border and see the disasters that are happening, a Tory government compounding the mistakes that Labour started with foundation hospitals and everything else. And I also thought it was unfortunate that, which I was playing cheap, when you pick this poor individual, that's obviously someone, you pick this individual, you name them and all that, and it's shocking, especially when they actually agreed with the present Scottish government to do what they did, which is what one woman doesn't have.
Labour voted with the current drugs policy in Scotland. Yeah. Labour Party supported it.
Yeah, they supported it. And then going to Ruth, I thought marred in negativity, which is what he said, kind of summed her up well. Willie. He's banging on about 2-year-olds. Well, actually, a lot of his performances and the way he stands there looking like, with that little angelic look.
He looks like a minister.
He looks like a 2-year-old, so it probably...
Holy Wally.
Holy Wally.
Yeah.
That's what
it
reminds me of, Holy Wally.
Yeah. 2-year-old mentally, that's definitely because he just can't think of another subject.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's beyond that. I mean, because Holy Wally was a hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
That's what Burns said. And whilst I admire his statesman-like attitude compared to what he's done in the past, the fact is, a bit like the Scottish general election, all they ever talked about was, well, we don't agree with one police organisation. They didn't talk about anything else that was going to get people to vote for them. And to bring this up, is this an Exocet missile against Alex Salmond or the Scottish Government? I don't think so.
But 2-year-olds getting another indication.
Yeah, I mean,
he seemed to be. Alex was able to rebut just about whatever facts Willie thought he had. So we don't really know who's speaking the truth.
The problem is this thing down south, where they're going to allow one person to look after 6 kids, which is
6 2-year-olds instead of 4, which is the current
it's
regulation.
third up. But his point was that in order to be allowed to take money off 6 sets of parents, you have to be qualified up. In Scotland, you need that qualification to take money. You can't. It's not like childminding.
It's basically what they are. I mean, it isn't much more than childmind because the qualification isn't that much. But I thought when Salmond just basically was not taking any lessons from the Liberal Democrats in the fact that the last people they are interested in is young couples that are going to likely get heaved out of their houses and all that. Presiding officer, I thought, was very, very good, and Salmond was on very good form.
I was quite surprised actually that the bedroom tax didn't come up.
Oh, he didn't mention
He got mentioned.
He stuck it to the Liberals on that.
I'm talking about from the opposition, because somewhere there is a document, I think produced by the Labour Party, costing the amount of money that they would have to give to the councils to cover it.
Yeah.
So there is a document somewhere with a way to alleviate the worst of it.
Alex.
Right, okay, that's a good entry point. First thing I'd say to you though is that, interestingly enough, Being Human is a programme about vampires, if you recall.
Yeah.
It's the title of an American.
Well, I just thought she was.
I agree.
I've seen the programme. I thought Joanne was actually charming.
No, I agree. I just thought it was an interesting.
But she never shows. She never shows that side in the Parliament.
No, she doesn't because
she's got a script.
Well, the point is she's no good at thinking on her feet. I mean, I don't doubt if she went into that TV programme and was talking about herself, she could be totally relaxed and just, talk about herself.
Women in politics.
Which is fine, and that's easy because it's not contentious. She goes into First Minister's questions every week. We're having doubtless sat through a strategy meeting. What we're going to say, somebody writes the script, as Phil keeps saying, and when Simon said no, for example, to her first question, she had to go to the second question. She actually could have given them a good. I mean, I don't disagree with Norrie's point about there are occasions when no is a good answer, but it's actually it's a dangerous answer in one respect. If you've got a really sharp guy on the other side of the house, you can say, oh, it's that important, you think you can only answer it with one word, well, let me tell you why. Whack. But she can't do that.
She can't do that. She's got to stay on script.
So, generally speaking, she was on script, and yes, she looked a wee bit less shifty. I wrote squinty because she does that with her eyes, as you pointed out before. So I don't think her physical presence is as good as it could be, but she was okay. But the strategy is to continually follow the same thesis, which is if there's anything I can pick out that's imperfect, particularly if I can do the classic one that the Labour Party did way back in that election they lost about there was that little kid who was ill and they made a TV commercial out of it. I don't know if you remember it. I think it was the election that Kinnock lost. They made a TV ad for the campaign where they were talking about this wee lassie couldn't get the right treatment. It was a famous name. But anyway, so it's a good idea to have if there's any imperfection in what the Scottish Government is doing, and there's bound to be imperfections because there is a limitless bucket of money, then you've got to attack it, and then you add to that this consistent, because that is the strategy, and you have taken your eye off the ball because you keep wanting to talk about the Constitution. So that's the recurrent theme that she just keeps coming back to that.
But Salmond...
Dr.
Flack.
No, Salmond's response was absolutely spot on.
She that keeps asking the questions about the Constitution.
She does. But I would like to have heard a bit more from Salmond, as we were discussing earlier, when he was trying to deal with the question about, I found somebody who can't get the drugs they need. Fine, you can find that anywhere, I don't have any doubt. And the question is, does the Scottish Government and the people representing the Scottish Government, i.e. spending the Scottish National Health Service drug money, is it behaving in a way that makes it across the piece inferior to what was happening down south? Because that was the inference. Now, you know, the Labour Party don't have to say, well, we actually think they should be doing something else down south. All they do is pick out this weakness in Scotland. I would have liked Alex Salmond to say, as well as, and he did. His answers are very good.
Well, he was statesmanlike.
He was statesmanlike. He was statesmanlike all right through the process.
He never got angry this week.
Not at all. And saying to her, well, we've got a drugs administration decision-making process that you signed up to. What's your problem? That's a good answer. So I think he could have elaborated on it a bit more. But anyway, I thought his answers to her were very good. She was okay, but they're still following the same mantra.
What about Ruth then?
Well, she's always on a hiding to nothing because, by definition, as we've discussed ad nauseum, if she wants to have a dig at something that's imperfect in Scotland, he just takes out his 6 sheet and says, "Oh, you mean like that, and that your government's doing? So I mean, don't bother me." The problem, and she tries to be smart, and I don't. If you're really good and you've got good ammunition, you can be sarcastic.
You know what? I was very surprised. I mean, I predicted she'd mention NPD simply because they've been banging on about it. You know, here's this money you said you're going to spend and you haven't spent it.
Yeah.
But she's in very dangerous ground because the reason, as Salmond quoted back, even the Tories are realising that PFI, private money, is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And Salmond used that very well today, as he did on a couple of counts where, you know, the Jackie Bailey reference as well. He had his backbenchers give him ammunition to go boof. What do you think of that? And Jackie Bailey just sat there with a big smirk on her face. But I mean, because I've been wanting somebody, him particularly, to make those comments.
Can we just clarify that what happened there was that Jackie Bailey made a press release a couple of years ago now and claimed that Scotland was a superbug capital of Europe. And quoted these statistics. The statistics turned out to be for the year that she was in power.
2004, 2006.
And today we heard the latest figures, which were 80%. How hospital-acquired infections are 80% odd down.
Yeah.
And she just sat there smirking, couldn't say a damn thing.
No, she couldn't. And the trouble is, the mainstream media, who very rarely do any investigative stuff on releases from that source, basically just headline it. And of course, because this whole discussion always brings me back to the same thing: how many people watch this, and what do the general population think? If the whole of the general population were watching what we saw today, as we said before, I think, you know, Alex Salmond's going to come out on top relative to the others.
But all they get is sound bites.
But all they get is sound bites, and they're fairly selective sound bites, because one of the things I would criticise the BBC for, if Brian Taylor was actually going to do anything, he'd spend half an hour after FMQs analysing it, having a debate with what we're trying to do, and actually presenting some analysis of FMQs, but they can't even be bothered. So all we get is cockers in the Daily Telegraph saying, the Labour Party stuck it to Salmond again on the following subject without actually giving you any balance. Anyway,
so we've covered Ruth, you don't think? What about Wee Willie?
Holy
Willie, you called him.
Holy Willie is his technique, as we've said before, as far as I'm concerned, is better than it was in the past. But he's still a one-issue individual who keeps rabbiting on about it. I think there is merit, without a doubt. The earlier you give education to young kids, the better the output is going to be in society. Now, I don't know what the Scottish government, how the Scottish government is spending its money is, given the choices available to it, the most appropriate way to do it. He keeps saying it's not.
Here's a question out. There's the leader, all right, of a very small party. There's only 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me he uses his authority as a leader of the party to ask what, in essence, is what's like. It's almost like a constituency question. It's not actually about just his constituency, but it's a private, almost fetish of his.
Yeah, well, I think it is, absolutely, and I give the guy 11 out of 10 for actually caring about what 2-year-olds get. But is it the thing that the leader of the Liberal Party should be doing if they actually want to win more seats in the next election? I don't think so.
What about this? Is it not a message from Westminster? This is something we could say we've achieved bang it in, bang it in,
Well,
bang it in.
well, possibly, but as Simon did, he does it with all of them, but particularly the condemns, because he says, "All right, you think I should be spending money on this when you're cutting this to ribbons? You must."
It was interesting that the college cuts figure I had was quite surprised.
Yeah, well, I actually thought
his college cuts, which have been highlighted across all the papers for weeks, 4% in Scotland, nearly 20% in England.
Now that tells you why, because I thought.
Will that make the headlines tomorrow?
No, it won't. But I thought that was.
The really important thing that he said there was 20% and think of the Barnet consequentials.
Yeah.
Because people aren't thinking about it.
No, they're not.
As the national health down south, as the colleges, the universities get cut.
As less money comes in.
There's less money comes to Scotland for those areas they're cutting.
Very true.
See what you said about Willie though. Bought 11 out of 10 for caring. Well, I actually don't think he does care. I think he just has an obsession. No, because on the TV the other night he was sitting there with some shelter, other people, and he had that same supercilious look on the face.
Oh, he said,
that about the bedroom tax.
Yeah.
This was fair.
His answer to the bedroom tax was a convoluted joke, because I read it.
His answer to the bedroom tax is we're doing these people a favour.
Yeah.
Because they earn so little money, they won't be able to afford an extra bedroom in the upkeep of the house. So we're going to take it off them.
No, it's wonderful.
It was just, I know. I mean, that's going to. Well, that will be an albatross around his neck
It
for the
means
rest of his political
I'm
But his allies, they don't care.
Salmon didn't get it in. They obviously haven't got
Can
it.
I ask one thing that struck me, and it's slightly off topic, but not in a sense. Last night we were in the company of Patrick Harvey, leader of the Greens, and there has been some discussion about that now there are 5 independents, and they formed themselves into some sort of loose group in the Scottish Parliament. There's Margaret MacDonald, there's an ex-SNP who's under charges for...
Was he in that group? For beating up his wife?
No, I don't think so.
Well, but there's 2 former SNP ones that resigned away from NATO, and Margaret and... Right, that's...
Yeah, there is 5.
Oh, and the 2 Greens.
The 2 Greens, that's right.
And there was some discussion about whether they might get a regular question, a bit like the Lib Dems. Now, what did Patrick say about it last night?
He's negotiating. They are negotiating.
Essentially, because the presiding officer has been off ill, there hasn't been a decision yet, but they've asked to be considered a group which would allow them the same sort of time, or question time, as Willie.
Well, I mean, it seems better there, isn't it?
That would be fun, better, yeah.
Well, look, can we score? We could go back to, and we got a pen to write down the scores this week. There we go. Get Alex on the job. Okay. Right, so if we start with Phil then for the scores, and don't forget the presiding officer.
Oh, well, I'll start with the presiding officer, and I thought she was good today. It's not compared to what we've had, so I'll give her an 8, because they are an unruly bunch, so an 8 I think would be quite appropriate. Salmond, he was very good, statesmanlike, a little bit of glamour, a bit of, laughing at them, so I'll give him 8.5. The halves make a difference. Joanne was...
It's hard to add up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, difficult. Joanne, I thought her delivery was good, but again, it's the carping and it's not the substance. I mean, she's got it there. We've seen her when she doesn't have a script, so I'll give her 7. Willie, well, as he really in his life wants to be a 2-year-old, I'll give him 2. And Ruth. Yeah, she's quite, well, as I said, it's marred in negativity, but she doesn't have a bad delivery. She just doesn't really, she doesn't have anything to deliver because it's just whacked away. Did you not
think...
tries, so I'll give her a 4.
Did you not think that when...
Whoa, history, mate. A 4 for Ruth Davidson.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, no, she was trying today. She was.
Okay, you're right. But did you not think it was noticeable when Jackson Carlow, who's really her deputy, he's the senior, he's the senior Tory in that party. Yeah. When he stood up with his own question towards the end, he was just in a different league compared to her. She's a professional presenter from television, but he stood up. Boom. He
sat behind that
sounded like a leader
for how long? That's what he did. I'd like to congratulate the NHS.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a good line.
Yeah, and that's what I'll remember from that.
I know, but I agree with you.
But it showed up at Ruth for being what she is, just another Tony Blair, a professional presenter.
But she was
With
better.
no-
She was better than
no
Willie today.
content.
So if I've given Willie 2, then I have to give her more.
All right. Well, let's go to Alex for scores then.
Well, I give the presiding officer 8. I agree with that. I thought she was. She didn't give anybody a smack, but
She shouted at us.
No, she shouted at us. No.
Enough.
Enough.
Yeah, no, it was a good
I thought
first.
she was going to throw the
Enough.
blackboard cleaner.
No, it was a good first day back.
It worked as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was less raucous than it's been for sure. I give Alex Salmon 9 because I think he was quite statesmanlike today. He didn't lose his rag. He did what Norrie would like him to do. He did it once when he said no and sat down, but he actually was measured through the whole piece. So I think he's taking the advice. John Amon, I agree with Phil. I give her 7. She's sticking to a script. I don't know what else she can say, to be quite frank. And she can't talk off script, so you could argue 7 was generous. But I think we're getting to the stage where she's not going to do any better than that. So it's hard to. The relativity of the measures is she only a couple of points worse than Alex Salmon? She probably isn't. She's probably worse than that. But anyways, it's different.
But he's got to have a hand.
What are you giving her?
I give
7.
Give her 7.
All
yeah.
right.
Ruthie, I'm not going to give her any more than 5. So I give her 3 because she's too. She tries to be sarcastic and it doesn't work. The greatest hits bit. All it did was give a line to Salmon to stick it to the pair of them. So she's a good presenter, but she comes up with stuff that you can always give her a smack for because, well, as Phil would say, you can always give a Tory a smack because they're always trying to cut something. So if she says, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, he ignored most of the things he hadn't done, interestingly enough, and just went for them. So that was okay. So I give her 3. And Willie Rennie, I agree with you too, because he needs to, if he's the leader of a party that wants to get more seats in the next election, he's got to be better than just talking about the one thing the whole time.
It's got to come out of the nursery. So
Yeah.
Norrie.
Well, Willie, I like Willie in as much as he keeps that kind of.
He's a pet.
I'm a serious person.
Yeah.
Do you not see when he smiles?
Everybody should have one in the corner.
Do you not
Yeah.
see when he smiles for the camera? It always reminds me of the picture of Alfred E. Newman in the Mad magazine.
Yes, good one. I like it. Yeah, it does look a bit like that.
I'll actually give Willie a 3. Because he's consistent. I mean, he doesn't let himself down, apart from the fact that his question. I mean, life's easy when you ask the same question week in, week out. Ruth, I don't think it was her best day. She slipped up giving Salmon the opening to get back at them with the greatest hits. So I'm only going to give her a 2. Okay. Joanne, yeah, she's getting there. She is getting there. If she doesn't do this kind of fighting in the steamy thing, I always think she looks a lot better.
I think, in a sense, we can only measure her performances against her own performances because
Really?
it's always a script. As Alan said, there seems to be no chance of her ever going off script.
Well, the other thing
there should be a ceiling in that skit, and what she could possibly score if she's capable of going off
And
script.
the other thing is, and kind of, I'm loath to mention it, but I've got to. She started wearing different clothes. She's gone to black, white, grey instead of that.
So the flowery stuff,
Instead of that, and I think
curtains.
that gives her a more stateswoman, statesperson look.
Sadly, I think that's
Maybe she's been watching Bournemouth.
could be.
So I think she's improving, and I think she's got a way to go. I think there's room, and she can move into it. She's still in a different league. I mean, she's still second division.
So what's she getting?
I'll give her a 7. Okay, I'll give her a 7. Alex was good today. I mean, he cheered me up in the wind with his yes. What was it? Do you
finally
do
waited
you
long
really,
enough. You
do you
finally
really
got the
think
policy
you
you
understand
wanted.
that your party understands the Scottish
So you
people?
reckon he was watching
Yes.
our review last week?
Could have been.
Well, he's done. I mean, he used to do it quite often in the past.
Oh,
So, but good delivery, and there was almost 4 different moods there. There was a single answer. There was the serious question to the cancer drugs. He got the boot in when he needed to, and he could be light-hearted. So he covered the whole gambit. Did it well. Didn't get footed.
Very serious.
Yeah. No, he phoned well today. I'll give him a 9.
What about the presiding officer?
Nice to see you back. Hope if you're watching us, hope you're keeping better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, she does make me think of my mum. You know?
Oh, Mr. Stevenson's enough.
You know?
Yeah, no,
you
Just
just
to me,
see
you
her.
love your mum, so that's a compliment.
So what's she getting?
I'll give her an 8
Right.
because she's not been well.
Well, I'll start at the
soft-hearted devil,
I
you
think
know.
I'll start at the bottom. I think Ruth now. I've seen Ruth at work. You could say in FMQs for a year. I can recognise that what she does is simply import her professional television presenter skills and stands up there and presents. And therefore, in a sense, like I said about Joanne, you could only really score Joanne out of 8 because if she can't go off script, she could never score a 10.
No.
Now Ruth, because she's got the television presenter skills underneath her, she too, there's a limit to where she can go because you're just always thinking, that's just a preacher.
She can never get any
Like a
content
salesman.
just by the simple fact that she's a Tory.
And she actually gives ground with her
For
body
you,
language and her stance.
I'm
Which
just-
is what she shouldn't do as a
Well, I'm going to give her 0 this week because she just hasn't done anything with her skills. So Nan's up there.
It's actually just struck me. She always looks at Simon, and you shouldn't do that. She should never look at Simon. She should look at the speaker. It gives you more authority.
Yeah,
You control the room.
Willie will go upwards from Willie.
Give him a 1.
A 2 for Willie. I'm only going to. No, I'll give him a 2 as well. I mean, I think you're right. He's banging on about 2-year-olds. I don't necessarily agree that it's always good to take children away from their parents at 2 into the system. I'm thinking philosophically rather than in practical terms, because when my youngest was 2, she went to nursery, but then she had to go to nursery. She was a terror. At
Well,
home.
a lot of folk have to go to nursery for economic reasons. They couldn't
Yeah.
have to work.
We were both working at the time.
Yeah.
But you can have 2. Joanne, I think Joanne did very well this week. But as I say, to me, I think she's got a ceiling, and I'm going to give her 8 because to me that's her ceiling. That's her best performance so far. Given that she can never go off script, so she gets 8. Alex too, I think, was excellent. And you're right. I like the way you summed it up, Norrie, because he did cover all with one-word answer, statesman-like, put down, humour. He did the whole lot,
Yeah, he did.
and he was up to his brief. I'm going to give him 9.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Presiding officer, I'll give her a 9, certainly for the put down. Mr. Stevenson, enough.
I think she's going to be second. But just one thing as well. Somebody wants to tell Jackie Bailey that when somebody hits you about a really horrendous record when you're in charge of the
Shocking
NHS,
lie.
you don't smirk.
No, she's smug, though. She
Yeah,
can't help
but
being
it comes
smug.
across like those creeps that are on a Tory front bench when they're all there. Those old Etonians, as they're sitting there like a bunch of, vampires.
Oh, the Westminster ones.
Yeah, they're like vampires
Well,
the whole
well,
way.
well,
It's not nice. It's not becoming a human being to sit and smirk.
Is there
when,
such a look as righteous embarrassment?
Well, just look like Joanne or that. Look like you're.
Yeah, she could have gone.
serious
You're right.
politician.
Bailey had gone like that or something. A good facial expression of "Oh, I'm sorry." You can even get a smiley
You can make it look as though it's a genuine
to make you look
mistake.
embarrassed. Just paint
But you
red on
don't
your cheeks.
smirk.
Or
It's just
you don't
not-
smirk. What you have to do is go,